If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Well, I was going to say, I think I'm very fortunate to be in a position where there's so much that I want to do, but I don't have enough time. So I recognize that that's not the case for everyone. But for me, I think I would just, if I could add more time, more hours to the day, that would be the superpower I'd want.
That would be pretty cool. So the idea that is it more like time travel, so that you could just keep going back and like extending your time, or
No.
is it like a person? Is it a personal pause button? Have you seen the movie? I can't remember what it's called. It's not Switch, but it's like it's an Adam Sandler movie where he has like this all powerful remote control, and he could pause the world and go do whatever he needs to do, and then and like resume. I feel like that's the thing I need.
Yeah, certainly pausing. I think just having longer, like having 40 hours in the day would be helpful. And then that way I can just do more. I think right now there's a lot I want to do with my family. There's things I want to do with work, with the team. And so there's just not enough hours in the day to do that. So
I agree. I think if I had that kind of time, it wouldn't be to work more. It would just be to enjoy life and do a lot of the other stuff that I want to do, because work does take up a good chunk of the day. And it would be nice to be able to catch up with friends and do activities and go hiking and do all the stuff that I want to do. I like that. That's good. So just expanding time. I think that pause button would be huge for me, though. I could get all sorts of docs written and things done, and like, hey, how did you finish that in 20 minutes? Don't worry about it.
I think especially.
All right. So another one that I like to ask is, between your car, your desk, and your bedroom, which is the messiest and why?
Well, my desk.
Your desk is the messiest?
Yes. So mostly because when I'm at my desk, I am very essentially ruthless about prioritizing and my time. And so I'm working at my desk, and I don't typically have time to tidy up the desk. And then the other reason is that we have a 3-year-old, and she likes to hop onto my chair and pretend to be in meetings. And so she will rearrange everything on my desk. So I feel like there's no point in cleaning up anymore, because it just gets rearranged. And so the desk is messy.
Got it. Well, I will tell you, the backdrop you have there looks very neat and organized. So you're at least pretending very well.
This is actually not my office. Oh. I'm in my husband's office. Thank you. I will give that compliment to him.
Okay. All right, last one, and this takes a little bit to frame up. I want you to imagine you're walking down a busy city street, and you see an alley that's a shortcut right to where you need to go on the next block over. And so you cut down that alley, and about the middle of the alley, in front of you at the other end, emerges this giant horse-sized duck. Like just a giant duck, right? About the size of a horse. And you're like, nope, no thank you. And you turn around to go back out the way you came, only to be confronted by 100 duck-sized horses, tiny horses. At either end it looks aggressive, and you need to get out safely as best you can. Which direction do you go, and why?
Oh, I think for me it's the horse-sized duck. At least you have a chance of a 1-to-1 battle versus 1 to 100, right? And so
100 tiny horses seems intimidating.
Exactly, and I wouldn't underestimate, I wouldn't underestimate small horses. So, yes, I guess the original way I was going, that's where I would try to continue to go.
Now, I always ask this of people: can you imagine being able to ride a horse-sized duck? I think that would be remarkable. Like, have it take off, it'd be like Never-Ending Story up in the sky. I think that would be.
Can this duck fly?
Ducks can fly, so I would think that a giant duck would still be able to fly somehow. All right, so good. Okay.
What kind of answer do you typically get to that?
It varies greatly. A lot of people are not intimidated by small horses. They feel like they could just kick them out of the way. But I'll tell you, if I was at a park and I was suddenly surrounded by just 100 ducks, that seems like a lot of ducks. So I'm with you. I'm in the giant duck camp, but not everybody is that way. So One last question before we get into some more serious topics. How many
Yeah.
Alexa devices do you have in your house?
We have 5. So we have uh, 2 Dots, 2 Shows, and we have a Sonos speaker.
So that
So
sounds like maybe, what, every bedroom and maybe a kitchen or something?
yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's every bedroom and a kitchen.
Very, very cool. My house has a couple of more. You can see behind me that I have a couple of devices. This is my voice lab, and so I actually have one of each device sitting
Yeah.
here in this office because I need to test and try things out as new devices come out. In fact, this is breaking news. I just noticed today on the Amazon website, Echo Frames V2 are available for sale today. I didn't even know there was a V2, but those are available for sale. And there's a product red Amazon Echo, like this ball-shaped one. There's a bright red one now I just found it on the website today. So if people are looking for some Christmas gifts, there's 2 cool ones.
It's so typical of Amazon to for us to sort of learn things on retail website for the first time as employees.
Very much. I was very surprised but delighted, and so I'm looking forward to checking those out. Okay, so the thing that I really want to know, the reason we're here, is I want to get to know you and what you're working on and Alexa Health. I want to learn all about kind of what you're working on and what you do. So if you can give me the quick, 5-minute kind of cover story on what your path has looked like, maybe where you went to college, kind of the highlight jobs or decisions that you've made in your career that got you to where you are today. I'd love to hear that story.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you a short version. So background-wise, I think I've spent most of my time on consumer technology, so building solutions to help end consumers and customers. Background-wise, so education. So I went to the University of Waterloo, which is in Canada, for my undergraduate to study computer science. So I have a computer science bachelor's degree. And then I took some time after working for a while to go back to school to do an MBA. And I did my MBA at USC down in LA. 2 very different schools, very different, I would say, like 2 ends of the spectrum.
Sure.
And so, but got a ton in many different ways from both experiences. And then I joined Amazon about 7.5 years ago. Initially was part of the advertising group, so worked on a bunch of products, cost per click advertising products, as well as worked on a live streaming video product that was brand new as a V1, which is where I sort of found my passion of really being attracted to greenfield and wanting to build stuff from scratch. And so I joined Alexa to start the health and wellness group. So it super exciting, still is very exciting today. But at the time, we really did not have anything, didn't have a team, didn't have really a vision or plans as to what it is that we want to build. So built up the team and created a vision. Essentially, the team, what we're looking to do is to bring healthcare into the home. And so we think even prior to the pandemic, I think with the pandemic, there's certainly a lot that's changed. I think it's served to accelerate some things, but even prior, there really is the team and I have conviction that the convenience of voice and accessibility and just the power of AI can really help people manage their health at home. So whether you have something that's acute that you're dealing with or something that's chronic, we think that she can be there to assist. And so that's what we're here for. That's why we get up in the morning, is that we want to be able to build experiences that would help people with their health at home.
I love that. So computer science background, that's fantastic. Oftentimes, and I'm going to take a quick sidebar here. I actually got to be the MC of a conference all morning this morning from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time. and it was entirely made up of women in computer science. There were 11 different speakers. They were talking about their perspectives on being in the industry, but they were also talking tech, right? Showing people how to do a lot of cool things with a lot of different technologies.
Cool.
It was very, very awesome that I got to be the MC for that, because I got to pay attention and learn and engage with each one of them as they were speaking. And it's one of those rare things to see someone with a I hate to say this because it's terrible about our industry, but to have many women with a computer science degree at all it's somewhat rare. And so I'd love to know. I mean, it sounds to me like your career path has been, one, impressive, but very, very cool. Some of the things that you've been able to work on, and certainly the focus you have today. A side question, I guess, would be how do you, in the industry, how do you encourage and attract more women to these kinds of fields? What are some of the things that you, from your perspective, we could do?
Yeah, first of all, I think things have gotten a lot better. We've made progress since when I was in school, and so, I personal experience in undergrad. I think so Waterloo has probably one of the largest computer science programs in North America, and so the class was fairly large. I believe it was several hundred people, but the ratio was something like 1 to 10, so 1 woman to 10 men, and then we had a software engineering program that was a sister program, and that program was far worse. It was like 1 to 20 or 1 to 25, and I think it's a number of different things. I think 2 things I'll talk about. One is representation. We hear about this all the time, but I really think it matters. Representation matters. So as a student studying computer science, if you can, the extent to which you can envision yourself building a career as a software developer and is important in terms of how you are able to succeed in the program and graduate. And so I think at the time I had a number of friends who in the program who ended up switching over to similar fields, but fields that had more women in them. And so statistics, actual science, applied mathematics, these were fields that people switched to from computer science at the time because there were female professors, female lecturers, TAs. It was, I think, so. Representation definitely is one of those things where if you can, we as part of the tech community, if we can give back by being able to teach, being able to assist in research, just sort of having representation in the education arena is helpful to encourage women to join, to stay, to graduate. And then the other aspect I'll talk about is, like, I think for me it's some of it is leveling the playing field. So once you get into the program, and I think this is where I think things have changed quite a bit. But one of the things that was shocking for me at the time was I went into computer science because I had taken a few programming classes in high school and enjoyed them and thought it was.
Oh no, I think I've lost you. Rachel, are you still there? We're having a blip in the internet, everyone. I think that we're still streaming. It seems like everything is working here on my side, but we seem to have lost Rachel. That is not ideal, but I'm hoping she will come back here in just a moment. Maybe it's just a blip in the internet. Well, I will tell a quick story while we hope that Rachel can come back. Rachel seems to be frozen. We'll try reconnecting here in just a moment. What she was describing, though, with representation in the computer science field and being able to think about things like my daughter. My daughter is a junior in high school, and she took a computer science class her freshman year. She took an AP computer science class her sophomore year, and she's taking one now. And the amazing thing to me is that all of her instructors have been female. That is not something that I would have expected at all in an industry like this, but I'm very, very pleased that she has female representation in front of her to be able to, to be able to figure out exactly who she's working with and to see other women that understand programming and coding concepts. I think that's a big, big part of it. And so I'm really glad. Rachel seems to have lost her entire internet because we use Skype to connect these calls, and it says that she's not even online. So it makes me feel as if maybe her internet went out, which is very unfortunate while you're trying to stream. It's good to see Beckshan here in the audience. Trade last. Man, we got a good crowd. Yeah, it says she's not even online. So I am in a stuck position where what I really want to do is talk to Rachel. That's the point of what we're doing here today. And I don't have a Rachel. So I'm not sure what to do. I'm going to give her just another minute. We'll try to connect. I'll use my very, very clicky keyboard. And I'll see if I can answer some questions here. So Chicken Nugget Combo says, hey, can we have a quick intro about you? Yeah, we could totally do that. So I am the principal Alexa evangelist here at Amazon, and my job is to talk about everything related to Alexa. So if you think about talking to developers, primarily that's where I spend a lot of my time. But my job works two different directions. So the first is I want to be able to talk to all of you and share with you latest releases, products, all that kind of stuff. I want to make sure that you know what's going on and what's happening. But on the other side, I'm also here to collect information from all of you. So when you run into issues or you have problems, TradeLast is a perfect example here in our audience of that. He's reached out to me on multiple occasions and said, hey, this doesn't work the way I thought it would, or can you help me understand this concept better? And I take that feedback back to our product teams and say, hey, we have people that just aren't getting this. We need to update our documentation. We need to make sure this is easy to understand. We need to make sure that maybe we could build some tools to simplify that process. All of those kinds of things are things that my job primarily focuses on. But it's in the grand scope of developing for Alexa. That's where the core of my focus is. From a historical perspective, I think, I actually have a degree in psychology. That was where I went to school. I thought I was going to be a psychologist, get my PhD, do all of that. And I got out of school right at the right time. It was right when the internet was exploding, and I knew enough about building websites that I could really do some damage, right? I could do some interesting things with web development just because I thought it was cool. And I found some companies willing to pay me to do it. And so I found a bunch of advertising agencies. I worked on things for Victoria's Secret and Abercrombie and Fitch and Ford Motor Company, all sorts of big names and big companies. And all of that worked really well before I found myself speaking at some conferences about things that I had learned or done. And Microsoft tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, we like the way you do this. Would you like to come work for us, telling developers about what you do and what you think about? And so I did that for about 9 years before, like every aspiring developer does, I went and worked at a startup for a year. And once I was done with that, that was right when Alexa had come out. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to jump on this team. And I've been on the Alexa team for now just over 4 years. So really glad to be here and really excited about how this all works. So look, we're going to try and do some magic here. See if we can connect back with Rachel and see if it just works. Welcome back.
I'm so sorry. My computer crashed.
That is okay. You're here now. I am fantastic at filling time. And so I've been talking with our audience and keeping it alive while you've been gone. I'm so glad your computer's back and working. You were telling me about representation in education and why that is an important thing. And I riffed on that a little bit because my daughter is in some computer science classes in high school. She's in her second AP computer science class, actually.
Oh, cool.
And all of her computer science teachers in high school have all been female, which I thought was fantastic. Because when I think of a high school computer science AP teacher, it's an old dude with a beard, right? And that's not the kind of representation she needs. She needs to see people out there doing these kinds of things. And in fact, I made a big noise about her first day. This was her first class, first period, her freshman year. She walks into her first ever high school class, and it's her computer science class. And the male teacher for that class said, "I'm sorry, honey, are you looking for, what classroom are you looking for?" And she goes, "No, I'm supposed to be here." But he looked at she was the only girl in a 17-person class. And her name is Riley, so I think maybe he assumed he had a class of all boys.
Yeah.
But those are the kind of assumptions that knock somebody down. She feels like she's not welcome. It's not where she's supposed to be. She's a strong kid, thankfully, and she was able to just like truck right in there and handle it. But that kind of representation, I told that story on Twitter, and I had a bunch of female developers that asked me if they could mail her letters or a postcard and just send her some. So she's got these hung all over her room, all these heroes of hers that work at places like Mozilla and Facebook and all sorts of cool stuff. It was great. So I agree with you. I think representation is really important.
Yeah, and I apologize again for hopefully this doesn't happen again.
No problem.
But the other thing I was just quickly going to mention was that I think helping, underrepresented populations in computer science catch up is also really important. I think in the middle of relaying that when I was in undergrad, I was really surprised. So so it sounds like similar to your daughter, I took a bunch of classes in high school and really enjoyed it. And so I went into the field only to kind of discover that a lot of my classmates have been programming since childhood. And so they were coming in with multiple languages that they were familiar with. And essentially the teacher, I remember at the time, the professors would cater to this population. So the population that was, more advanced. And so out of the gate, I felt behind. I felt somewhat behind coming into the class because and so that's not a recipe for success, right? And so I think we have to, as an industry, recognize that not everyone is starting at the same same spot. And so give extra help to those who may be starting a little bit behind.
Yeah, and don't favor the kids that have 10 years of a head start already. I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's great. So we've talked a little bit about representation and women in the field, which I think is something that's really important to me. I subscribe to the idea that diversity only makes everything better. And so whether that's underrepresented groups or genders or whatever, having more diverse perspectives makes all software better. I continue to talk about a horror story. There was a company that was making a smart scale. And what they would do is they had all sorts of messages and encouragement that you would get. And when women would get pregnant, obviously their weight is going to go up, right? You're housing another human inside of you. They would recognize that weight gain, even if she had marked that she was pregnant, as weight gain. And they'd be like, hey, maybe you should hit the gym, or you know what, it seems like you're slipping, which is so discouraging to somebody that's just pregnant, right? That's not necessarily their fault that they're putting on a few pounds. But when you looked at it, it was an engineering team completely made of men that hadn't even considered that that's something that might happen. Those are huge misses, I think, in our industry. And it's something I think that we're all getting more aware of and better at, but it could always be better.
Yeah, certainly true. Let me put a little bit of a health spin on that. I think when it comes to health is very personal. And I think having a diverse team matters because it, you go through various health stages as you age. And certainly gender plays a big role in that, but also other kind of characteristics. And so, one anecdote I'll share is that when we were building some experiences around prescription medication, there was challenges in understanding what it's like to take prescription drugs on a regular basis, having to take multiple drugs. You can imagine our team of engineers, including myself, didn't have that personally. And so really had to put ourselves in the shoes of someone who was taking multiple drugs at the same time a day. And then, so I think, all this is to say, the more diverse the team I have, the better we'll be able to understand our customers.
Agreed. All right, so let's take that a little bit further into healthcare. So, in general, where do you think the healthcare industry is headed, and how can some of the consumer technology help?
Yeah. So I'll talk about the pandemic and how it has accelerated things. I think we went from, and I'll quote, this is a stat that I heard at a conference earlier this year where, or actually not super long ago, where there was a health system that described that prior to the pandemic, their telehealth visits made up less than 1% of their overall visits. So it was something like basically single digits on a weekly basis. And then currently, it is now 80% of their visits. And so they sort of, as a system, as a health system, they've had to ramp that up very quickly. And so I give that example to really describe the need for health services, care, for medicine, for other types of therapy activities in the home. And this is, I think the trend of the industry. I think there's both, I would say, regulatory changes that are coming down that would encourage remote care and sort of virtual care, and have the ability for patients to be able to seek care from home. There's sort of an array of benefits for that. But I would say the Uber theme is that shift from not only kind of, if you talk to a doctor or provider, one of the things they'll say is, I see someone, probably an average person, 3 or 4 times a year at most. And then in between that time, I have no idea what is happening to them, to their health. I'm not in their home. I wish I was in their home so I can know what they're doing and what they're not doing. And I think that's where we think that with Alexa, Alexa's already in people's homes. We think that there's a lot of things that we can help consumers with, but also help their providers understand their behavior being at home. And so I think that's the trend of shifting towards from kind of in-person care to virtual care.
Yeah. No, and I think I agree with that, especially the observation stuff, right? I've had some back problems over most of this year, and I've been doing physical therapy for the last couple of months, and I went and saw my doctor, and he goes, okay, so physical therapy just ended. How are you doing with the at-home exercises? I mean, my answer was obviously, I'm doing great. Like, it's, every day I spend about an hour stretching and doing all this stuff. That is 100% not true, but I know I should be, so that's kind of what I communicate to my doctor. But later, when my back starts hurting again, he's going to be like, you didn't do your exercises, right? And I'm going to be like, no, I didn't do what I was supposed to do, right? And I think the same thing goes with prescription drugs. So that's a really interesting perspective. It's not necessarily monitoring, but it is the idea that we can engage and understand what a patient is really doing to better their health or to stay on a program or anything like that.
Yeah, and I would bet that your intentions are good, and maybe the reason you're not getting to what you want to do is life is busy. You have a lot of things to do, and so with health, it's not something that people necessarily identify with, right? No one sort of identifies by a disease, or at least no one wants to. And so I think the goal here is that if you can have someone, an assistant, who can remember these things for you, so you don't have to think about it, then that's the goal. It's not so much you're kind of worrying about therapy, that it's more around, hey, I actually there's an experience where Alexa can keep me on top of things. I don't have to worry. So I can go and worry about other things, or spend my energy on things that I actually enjoy doing.
Right. All right. So this Alexa Health and Wellness team that you're on, can you give me kind of the origin story, the background behind where this came to be?
Yeah, we received a number of inquiries, I would say, from various academic institutions, just asking about applications of Alexa and health. These were, some of them were medical schools, kind of innovators in terms of medicine and technology. And so we basically had some letters come in, requests come in, asking for a product that we didn't have. And these external institutions didn't know what the internal, how we were organized, didn't know what we were investing in, but they saw that there was this need. And voice is not new to healthcare. There's definitely precedence of voice, but the in these letters, what was described was, if we can have AI that's as widely adopted the way that Alexa has been adopted by consumers in the home for things like music and smart home, weather, info, news. If we had that for health, the impact would be huge. So that's sort of where the team started. Was there was some demand, and we were trying to meet that demand, trying to understand, hey, what can we do here? Knowing that we don't necessarily are not going to provide you with care, nor do we necessarily pay for care. And so they're sort of trying to figure out as a team, where can we make an impact?
I love it. I think this is a really important mission, because I think that there's a lot that goes into thinking about our care, and just even if it's just a reminders sometimes to be able to take your medication or do your PT or whatever it might be. I think that all of those things go a long way in making sure that people are keeping up with their health, because it's easy to ignore. It's really especially when it's chronic pain or something like that you don't want to think about. You don't want to think about the fact that you hurt every time you move. This is really important. So now that we've talked about health and thinking about Alexa, what are some of the biggest challenges that your team faces?
I would say the one of the big challenges is that I touched on this a little bit a while ago, is because health is so varied and so personal, and you experience different stages of health as you age, as you have other sort of life events, such as having children and all that. And so one of the challenges is, how do we have a wide set of experiences or solutions to meet different needs across the spectrum. And I think that's where we are leaning very heavily on developers. And so these are, and specifically developers who are in digital health, or actual providers of care, payers of care, pharmacies, people who are interacting with patients in person and sort of providing care. We're leaning on them to build experiences on Alexa in the form of skills. And so some folks may know that Alexa has a HIPAA eligible skills environment, where basically it enables skills to potentially handle PHI, protected health information. And so this means that your doctor, your insurance, your pharmacist could potentially build experiences for you, tailored to you, after you set up your account and link it with Alexa, and actually give you the specific care plan that you have, versus a generic Wikipedia page that you're reading on. And so I think this is where we're leaning heavily on healthcare entities and asking these healthcare developers to build solutions on Alexa.
Got it. Okay, so speaking of building some of these things, again, the third-party skills, HIPAA, can you tell me about some of the tools that you guys are using, maybe from the developer space, the science space, maybe even user experience? I'd love to know more about what you guys are doing and how you're building.
Yeah, it's sort of, I think, probably what I would say, is that as a developer, when you join Alexa, there's a lot of opportunity to experiment with machine learning. In terms of tools, I think there's such a wide range of tools. Mostly, I think a lot of AWS tools, like SageMaker, Notepad, the various sort of, we also use things like Mechanical Turk to collect data for experimentation. We have certain tools for essentially analyzing the utterances that come in through Alexa. It's hard to kind of get super specific, but I guess the general comment I have is that the toolbox is very big as a developer in Alexa. And you can, there's both particularly around NLU, natural language understanding. This is where you can, I think there's what I would describe as engineers on our team both are able to work on building language models, improving the language models over time using training data, but also are able to, on the side, do quite a bit of research into new ways of doing things. So constantly trying to make Alexa smarter. And so that's, in general, if you think about, if the audience here is interested in getting a sense for how developers build things in Alexa, I think it's quite a bit of both language modeling, but also experimentation on the side to be able to have the conversation be as natural as possible between an end customer and Alexa.
That makes sense. So we actually had a question in the audience. They were asking if your team is responsible or contributed to the Amazon Halo.
We are not. We do. We work with that team, but we are not part of that team. So that team is under devices. If anyone's sort of familiar with how Amazon's set up, and it's a very cool product and great team.
Yeah. No, I was surprised. I have one myself. I don't have it on today, but normally I have it on, and. The sleep tracking stuff that it was able to share with me was pretty eye-opening. I sleep incredibly poorly. But on top of that, I thought that some of the sentiment analysis, where it was actually paying attention to how I speak, I was going through a rough patch maybe at work or whatever, but my wife even said, she goes, "You seem angry all the time." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, I'm fine. I'm like a happy-go-lucky guy. That's not me." And I wore that for a couple of days, and I was like, "Ooh, I think she's got a point. Like, it says that I sound angry all the time." So very cool. I won't spend too much time on that. The audience was just curious if that was something you guys were working on as well. So let's talk about other customer-facing things then. What kind of customer-facing improvements that you've worked on? What are you most proud of? What are some of the things that you've contributed?
I'll talk about something fairly recent this year. I'm sure everyone can relate when I say that COVID kind of upended a lot of things, our lives, and it's unfortunately it's flared up more recently. And so, as much as it's impacted our our personal lives, it's also impacted the team and I significantly, as you can imagine. But one of the things that I'll talk about that the team is fairly proud of is in March, when we had the spike, the team kind of scrambled together to build a COVID-19 self-checker experience on Alexa to help customers who suspect that they may have COVID to understand their risk and possible actions. And we use the CDC guidelines, and we're continuously updating based off of CDC guidelines. And one of the learnings from that, and we sort of put it out there very quickly. It was, I think, a very quick turnaround in order to be able to really just wanted to help people who have a need, who wanted information and wanted to seek help. We were surprised to learn that the user engagement with that experience is quite high, and with an average duration of more than 2 minutes per user. And so this told us that customers are willing to turn to Alexa for health-related assistance, willing to answer questions, willing to spend the time sharing information about how they're feeling, as well as their other sort of demographic information. And so we very much hope to be able to help more customers navigate COVID. And so that was sort of a surprise thing that we learned, and we feel like we help customers based on the number of users that we've had and just the engagement with the experience. The other project I'll share also is that around the same time we kicked off an Echo Show device donation program with hospitals in the U.S. And these were hard-hit hospitals on the East Coast that really was initially it was just there was not enough PPE protective equipment. The hospitals reached out and asked, is there anything that we can do? And so the team essentially put together a solution where we enabled clinicians to drop in on COVID-19 patients, basically opening a video and audio session without having to suit up and go into the room. And so we had heard that what was happening was that just to be able to suit up so the nurses and doctors are suiting up, just going in to check in on how the patient's feeling. And so with this experience allows them to do that without having to be there in person, and really reducing the risk of infection. And so and this was a joint effort across multiple teams in Alexa. It was certainly not something that just my team worked on. But I think we're really proud to have been able to help essential workers during this time.
Yeah, I mean, what an impactful story. That's amazing.
And so those are a couple of COVID related. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a downer to talk about, just the reality that we're in. But I think the team is quite proud to be able to be in a position where we can use technology to help.
Yeah, and I mean, it really is something as simple as just a video call, right? But when you think about think about every time I try to talk with my mom before she had like FaceTime on her phone, right? It was, no, Mom, you need to install this app, and then you need to do this thing, and now it's so easy to just plop down an Echo Show and call it, and be able to have a video chat pretty easily. I think it takes a lot of the friction away. That it's not that it wasn't possible before, but it's so much easier now. Yeah, that's great. All right, so something that I don't often get to talk about a lot here on these kinds of shows is the future. But I'd like you to share anything you can about, like, what kind of advancements do you see coming in the future? What opportunities are you excited about? Because I think one of the things that I always like to preface this with is, we're not here to make any promises. This isn't a future roadmap. This isn't what you're delivering in the next 6 months. I don't want people to think that. But when you look at the big picture stuff, or even talk about 5 years from now, what does it look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's hard to kind of predict, and particularly with healthcare, there are it's complicated. There's a lot of at least in the U.S., the healthcare system has a lot of interdependencies and complexity. But I guess I'll kind of describe at a high level, which is, I envision a world where Alexa plays an active role in helping my family and I stay on top of our needs. So we have it's a 2 working parent household. We have 2 little kids under the age of 3. And so it's really, with all the things that are going on, I envision a world where she knows, for every member of the household, she knows what the needs are, whether it's from a baby to perhaps an aging parent in the household. She knows sort of things around medication, care plans, what the doctors have prescribed, what the doctor says that we should be doing, and then she also knows preferences, right? Behavior preferences for the family, and is able to put it all together so that we essentially have peace of mind.
Yeah.
We don't have to deal with coordination, and she can just handle it and be able to keep everyone on top of their health needs in combination with other types of needs that we have, right? And so that's sort of where I see Alexa providing the most value. And I think it's a long road, but
Sure.
I think we can get there. I think there's um, things that we can build so that it's in a world, it is easier. In that world, I think it's easier to talk to her and to have her manage the household's health needs. It's easier than I would say other modalities in terms of, pulling out your phone or searching on the web. I think that's
Yeah.
where I would like to see things.
Yeah, I'm with you. I gave a talk recently that is, looking at that 5 to 10 year future, and what you're describing is really what's near and dear to my vision as well, which is the idea of like that auxiliary brain. Because not only is it more reliable to have a system like that remind me and have the information when I need it, but it also allows me as a human to be able to focus on things that are more important to me. If I'm constantly just worrying about, do I know this thing? Do I have enough information? I'm spending all of my cycles just trying to manage and maintain that information in my head. And if I can offload that to another system, like I call it a personal AI companion, right? Somebody that's there by my side 24 hours a day and knows everything that I need to know, so that when
Yeah.
I don't know it off the top of my head, I can just ask.
Yeah.
I think this fits really nicely into that kind of picture.
Yeah, and I would even say, like, instead of what's even maybe better than asking is she can be proactive about it.
Yes.
So you forgot something and you
Right.
didn't, and she can sort of, you know, help you out by suggesting things
Yep.
that
Yeah, I have a couple of examples of that. One that's kind of healthcare related, which is just having her chime in and say, "Hey, you have a dentist appointment next Tuesday."
yes,
Right? Like, I don't want to go through the process of calling my dentist and scheduling the thing and comparing calendars and then having to reschedule because meetings come in. Like, I don't want to do any of that. I
sure,
want her to figure out, hey, it's been 6 months since your last cleaning. I've talked to your insurance company. I've talked to your dentist. You have an appointment next Tuesday. Awesome. That sounds great. I don't want to have to think about it at all. The other one, which is
yeah,
more social, and this is, I think it's me showing how desperate I am to get out of these COVID times, is the idea that she could also recognize when you've seen people recently and make, well, for lack of a better term, you have a 3-year-old, lack of a better term, play dates. I want to get together with my friends. Why doesn't she look at their schedule and my schedule and say, hey, next Friday you're going to get burgers with this person? Like, how cool
yeah.
would that be if you're like, I haven't seen Jim in 3 years. That's so cool that we're getting together. Like that kind of stuff would be amazing. It helps you not forget your bigger circle of network.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Because sometimes it's weird and awkward. If I was like, hey, Rachel, let's get together. Like, when are you free? Well, like, we've got gymnastics on Friday, and we got like I don't know, how's 2022 for you, right? Like that happens very commonly in a lot of circles.
And I would say even, if you're both Alexa users and are willing to share some of your interests, maybe she could suggest an activity, right? So if
Right.
you are both enjoy a particular artist, and post COVID, maybe you could go see a
Right.
concert.
God, a concert sounds so great. Yeah, I'm really torturing myself between not being able to go anywhere or see anyone. I'm also on a pretty restrictive diet right now. And so, like, on top of not being able to see people or go do anything interesting, I'm also not able to really eat anything interesting. And it's like, I feel like I'm just
That
torturing
sounds
myself.
terrible.
But I'm down 30 pounds too, so that feels pretty good about it.
Oh wow, congrats.
Thank you. But it's weird because, man, do I want a pizza. And my wife always jokes with me. She's like, you never say a slice of pizza, you say a pizza. And I'm about ready for a whole pizza. It's time.
I hope you're able to have a cheat meal once in a while.
Well, no,
Or
it's been, as of 2 days ago, it's been 2 months and 2 days. I've had no sugar, and no flour,
Oh,
which is a lot. But it's also like I feel better, I look better, so all of that feels worth it. It's only been 2 months, and I'm down 30 pounds, so that feels pretty good. But I've got another 30 to go for my goals. So if that takes me into the new year, that's fine. I can make it through the holidays without. I think I can
wow.
without
I
things like
applaud
gravy and
you.
Christmas cookies, but we'll see.
It's I don't know the way that we're yeah I'm in Seattle, and so Washington is in lockdown again.
Yeah, no,
I don't
Ohio's
think
almost there. It's as red as it can get.
yeah.
It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. We'll make the best of it, and we'll have a good Christmas regardless. So, with that, I've run out of questions. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about before we wrap up here?
Um, no, I mean I'll share this if if anyone watching is interested in exploring opportunities with Alexa, highly encourage you to reach out. It is a um, it's a large organization, but it's very fast moving. Lots of exciting uh, areas of investment, lots of, I would say, brand new initiatives that are waiting for folks to define to lay the foundation for. So I just encourage SDEs or any other sort of anyone who's interested in looking at opportunities to reach out. And then specifically for Alexa Health, I would say if you are interested in building applications or skills, as we call them, to be able to give care or to help provide support for remote care of patients. We do have a if you do a quick search, you can probably find the Alexa Health HIPAA eligible skill program,
Sure.
and so you can submit an application, and then we will review the application and then help you move through to next steps.
Perfect. Well, I think one of the other things we can do, I know that your team has a survey they'd like people to fill out. So for all of you in the audience, I think we're just posting a link here with a survey that we would love for you to respond to. So we'll wait for that to be posted here in the chat. But if any of you can respond to that and give us your feedback, we would greatly appreciate it. There is a raffle related with it, so make sure you get your entries in. And like Rachel said, I've been to the HIPAA related skills dev portal, looking at all the things that are going on there and the documentation and what's required. And it's a really exciting space, and I'm looking forward to seeing what a number of you in the audience probably will think to build. So you can see the survey is posted there. Gold Zulu, who's one of our regulars, says he's working on a healthcare related skill, so that's excellent to hear.
Oh, cool.
But if you complete the survey, you're entered into a raffle, and they're giving away an Echo Dot, so that's excellent. Well, Rachel, we're going to wrap up here. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Jeff.
This has been very good. Well, I'm sure you said you have 2 under 3. I'm sure you have plenty on your plate, so I will give you the rest of your day back. And I can't thank you enough, and hopefully we'll have more opportunities to talk to you and your team in the future.
It was my pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
Great.
Take care.
All right. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.